gorgeous. But in a way, I mean, this is a weird situation to play for, right? A little bit.
You know, my hands are icebergs coming in, and
right. Well, here's my point. It's sort of. I think what I'm able to see is what a beautiful player you are, and I know you're a little keyed up, and the thing is, it's so natural and normal, because I like to think of master classes. I'm just glad I don't have to play in them anymore, because it's like the worst of both possible worlds. Because in a private lesson, you're going to go in and play for your teacher, and you're going to get torn apart, right? But you don't have to do it in front of a lot of people. And then in a concert, you're going to play for a lot of people, but no one's going to sit there and tear you apart. But here you have both, But I'm not here to tear you apart. I'm here to try to build you up, And in a way, I mean, I really want to talk about the piece, and I want to talk about like some technique things.
Sure.
But in a sense, the thing I want you to feel right away is like, it's like utterly natural, normal, you know, to feel a little bit out of sorts in this situation and to get a little keyed up. And in a way, I think, you know, I find it to be a very interesting human physiological response to being in front of people. When what he said one thing, and it's like the classic thing that we all say. It sounded great back there, man. And you know, it sounded great in the practice room. And I feel exactly the same way. You know, when I can practice and I'm, you know, sort of my biorhythm or my emotional state is calm. You know, I can control everything exactly the way I want. And you get up on stage and something changes. And what's interesting is sometimes it changes for the worse. You know, feel lack of control or things are, you feel like that little hamster on the wheel, like trying to keep up, you know, or you second guess yourself once and then your complete confidence disappears. I mean, I've had every worst feeling anyone's ever had on stage, I've had it. I've had it, absolutely. But you learn how to deal with those things and you learn how to then inform your practice and to say, oh, this is where I wasn't clear in my memory, or this is where I was building in like tightness that became exaggerated. But the point I want to make ultimately is sometimes being on stage doesn't make you worse, it makes you better. It's really interesting. It elevates you to this place you never could get.
Sure.
And part of it, I think, is that what we do when we practice is we're preparing ourselves for this moment when we're going to take what we do as an individual experience and we're going to share it with these people. And that's the goal of, for me, the goal of practicing is I'm going to work really hard on this so that when I get in front of people, it's not that I play it perfectly or they go, wow, you're a great guitarist, or no. The thing is, hey, this is a beautiful piece and I want to share it with you. I want you to feel it. And so that's the ultimate goal. And I think maybe the best method for getting rid of nerves, because I think nerves come because we're thinking about ourselves and we're thinking about how we feel, and if we can redirect and say, hey, okay, maybe I feel weird, I'm out of sorts, but you know what? I gotta tell you something. There's something I have to say to you. And what is it? Listen to this. Listen to that F major chord. Isn't that the coolest F major chord you've ever heard? Wait, I got another one. Here's a C chord. Okay, so do the opening for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, man.
Do the opening for me, and just have this idea. You want to share these 3 chords. We're just going to go to here.
Yep.
So just tell them how great these 3 chords are. Now it gets harder after that. Can't help you with that. No. But in a way, there's something about this opening of this piece. You know, it's this kind of fantasia. They would call it a sort of tastare di corde, you know, in Italian. You know, but it's like I'm checking the strength. It's almost like I'm going, oh yeah, this is, you know, almost like checking your tuning.
Yeah.
You know,
Beautiful.
But there's also this idea that you breathe in between, you know, and this, in a way, it can be almost like a Zen meditation technique for you. It's, you inhale.
That's kind of why I chose the piece.
And your breath coming in is preparing, and your breath going out is playing those chords. So, without hyperventilating. Because that's happened to me before when I started thinking about my breath. Try it. Just take a gentle breath and feel like as you play the chord, you breathe. You just breathe it out. more musical. And you know, the amount of time you take in between is, if it's naturally aligned with your breath, it's exactly what he's trying to do. You know, does that feel okay?
Yeah. No,
and then the final thing I would say about just this beginning, before we get into a little into the piece, you know, the first one, you got this bar, okay, so it's a bar, okay, but then you have this second one, and you know, one thing to ask yourself when you're practicing it, it's like, you know, here's a C chord with a G on top, you know, and you can ask yourself, like, how much physical energy do you need to hold it down without buzzing? And I would say that, you know, almost all guitar players press too hard. We work too hard, and we sort of make the muscles on the back of the fingers kind of clench. And it's a natural response, because we don't want to go, no, so we press harder.
right.
But I know this sounds like a very esoteric way to describe it, but when you have to press a note down and get it clean, try not to feel that you're hardening the whole finger, like especially like the back of the finger, but just feel that you curl it slightly. And what I want you to feel, just grab my pinky here, the back of my pinky. Now feel the difference between this and sort of wiggle it around. Okay, there the whole finger's tight, okay? Now feel this here. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of bending a little from here and feeling like the inside. And a really great corollary to this, actually, is if you, pardon me for 1 second, for doing my little shtick here. Okay, imagine that these are strings, the floor is the guitar top, and this is a finger. Okay, you get it? Like, finger, ding, okay, so nail, you know, little knuckle, big knuckle, here's the hand. Okay, you guys feeling this? Okay, so if you want to, you know, do this, does it help you to go, tighten up the whole thing? Because I want to move that way, right? And now I'm doing the pluck, but I'm, you know, let's say I'm pressing a string down.
Sure.
I've never done this for the left hand, actually. You know, so if you tighten up the whole arm, as if you're going to like lift a heavy weight to support it, then it actually, it's good for stable motion, but it's not good for moving through, okay? And so what you want to feel is, okay, you just touch where you are, and you just have, my bicep applies just the amount of pressure I need. And I think of it like, well, this is the bicep of my finger, you know? And so if you tighten up the whole hand, versus keeping it soft, keeping it supple, and just, okay, so can you see the difference in the attitude of my hand when I'm like this?
Right.
But it's hard to see it, but if you feel it, you know, like you can actually feel it, and then the difference between this. Will I buzz that note? Okay, so the idea is try to feel like your fingers are just really soft on the back, and if you need to press, you just press just enough. Okay, and then when you lift them, you want to try to deliberately go poof, poof, like empty them, and as they're getting into the new shape, you try to take them to the new shape, not without clamping them. Just gently get them in where you need them, as gently as possible, and don't clench down on the back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So do it from the top again. I know I gave you a lot of ideas now, but think mostly right now. Yeah, and breathe, and there's all that too. Don't forget to breathe. It's okay. And then poof. Poof. And then relax. So in between, like we talked about breathing here, your fingers have to breathe. I know it sounds like a funny thing to say, but you know, if you hold on to tension, we need tension, okay? Obviously use the least you have to. But we have to have tension to hold down. But when you don't need it anymore, you have to practice going, and release. And it's not that I want you to lift your fingers away. It's not pulling them away. It's emptying them. And Pepe Romero, who actually loves playing this piece to open all of his concerts. This is his favorite piece because I think because of this opening, it calms him down. It's like a Zen exercise for him. But people would ask Pepe, how do you play so fast? Pepe, how is it possible? And he says, the secret to playing fast is to relax fast. It's true. And actually, it's pretty deep. And so he practices emptying, releasing muscles super fast, like millisecond twitch. And he said that's the secret to moving fast, because if you hold on to tension, it infects the next movement you have. And so, when you were moved to this chord, which is a bit of a stretch, you were tight. Your third finger was already tight in the air before it pressed. Yeah. And now it's hard to just on command say, "Oh, don't press it anymore." But this is an assignment for you. Okay, so now if you don't mind, let's go slowly. No faster than that. Like real nice and relaxed. Just for right now, I just want to. Nice. So you were already starting to do it, actually. And so here's something to think about. Whenever there's a descending scale, like he's got these ascending scales and descending. Whenever there's a descending scale in here, I want you to ask yourself, so let's see, there. Every time you have to lift a finger, every time you have to lift it in the left hand, I want you to not try to pull it away from the string, like go and lift it up. What I want you to try to do is just empty it from tension. So maybe we can just do right there. So can you do it right there? Okay. Oh, it's B flat, so but you still are going 1, 3. Right. And then you're right. Good. And so you have to do it slow, but I want you to feel like, let's say, when you're doing, and you can just stop. Watch me for a second. Yeah. And I reach over with my right hand and I go, bloop, 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 bloop. Is it empty or is it hard? And reach over. It's in position, but it's like this soft, empty thing.
Gotcha.
Try it. And if you have to stop, very good. Now, one thing I would say, if this is a new idea or you haven't practiced like this before, now you're looking really much more relaxed. But when we go down, we need tension. And I know it sounds like a funny thing to say, oh, I need you to be more tense. I need you to be more sure when you're down and more completely off when you're off. So sometimes what I do is almost like little mini hammer-ons. Like a little, like when I go to the string, it sort of goes, weak. And then when it lifts up, it goes, oh. So to explain, like there's this thing called muscle tonus. It's like the amount of like muscle contraction you're using to do a certain thing. And a lot of guitar players, when they're pushing a string down or releasing a string, their tone is in this range. And what I want you to do is when you're pushing a string down, it's clearly tight, and when you lift up, it's a much bigger difference between on and off. Like a very clear difference in the feeling of your muscles. So try.
So going down, for instance.
Right. So try it. Yeah.
Maestro, 5 minutes.
Oh, thanks. Nice. That looks great. Now feel how the other fingers aren't sort of sympathetically tightening up. And does it, right, now does it feel any better?
It does.
Okay, so
and
does it sound better? Because your synchronization's good. I know you're slow, but it feels better and sounds better. So maybe you should do it. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, this is a hard thing to just like sort of, if you haven't thought this way, it's a hard thing to just like work into your playing. But it's, one concept I like to feel is, for me, when I feel this on and off, this breathing inside the finger, this, you know, clarity between on and off, I feel like my hands are working the way they're sort of designed to work, and not clenching.
so this goes with also slow.
You have to do it slow enough.
You can't practice what you're talking about fast. You got to start slow.
Absolutely, because you're right now. You've done this. You've learned it sort of from a state of, you know, and you have to just for a time break it down into individual things, and then what you do is you then group things together. You can go. Let's say I'm going to go. Into a group, and then stop, and then you can go, and then stop, you know, and break it up into a little bit, and then relax again. And as you're doing it, feeling great, it's already better. But the point I wanted to make was that feeling of on and off, and not clenching. I call it happy hands.
You have to have happy hands.
Happy hands. And so there's this overall, and we haven't really talked about the right hand, but your right hand it was shaking a little bit, but I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah.
It's your right hand's working beautifully. Well, the thing is, for a lot of players, the left hand is the one that kind of makes the whole body tight, because our left hand is this. We think of it as a clenching device. You know, it's like gotta clench down. You know, and if your left hand relaxes, I see like the relaxation in the tips of your fingers is insinuating itself like up to your arm and your shoulders and into your right hand. You're already much more relaxed now than you were. So do me a favor, just at a slow, moderate tempo. Like let's say, I know I haven't given you a chance to practice it, but just try to feel this light feeling that we talked about. Wow. Let's stop there.